come from, learning, if you're able to learn who they are and who they come from, and if you're able to learn the ways of these lands and follow those ways, that is one huge way that we can be empowering ourselves and each other. That I was raised here. I have a, I will say, a privilege. My women have only created and bore their babies on these lands that we have existed on since the first sunrise. We do not know what it's like to have our babies be born on other lands, hearing other languages. It's bad enough that we have to hear English the way that we do here, that there is so little recognition of the languages of these lands, that it has become politicized. My language is not political, my existence is not political, and my work certainly is not political. Yeah. That I was raised by powerful women, and those women loved me and guided me simply by modeling to me how to do and how to be. A lot of people are now kind of getting hip to the word um, matriarch. But the fact is that it has existed here since the first sunrise, and it is how my people have done, and it is how we will continue to do until the end of my days and until the end of this place existing. That watching the way that my women handled themselves, watching the way that they ran the house, that they did everything, all of what now is called unseen and unrecognized labor. That, the mental workload of having to organize what has to be done in the house. That's why we're not okay with anyone coming to us now and saying, can you just give me a list of what needs to be done? No, open your eyes and see for yourself, because we're tired. But really having an opportunity, my dad was a construction guy his whole life. He's probably one of the most well-read, self-educated men on the planet. And he worked so hard for over 60 years building other people's homes and still could never afford to buy his own. My dad worked so hard to make sure that other people had beautiful places to live and to provide a home for my sister and I. And at the end of his working years, when he was forced into retirement, his pension was so little that he couldn't really afford to live anywhere. So he was resigning himself to the reality that he would probably live in his car, and he would give everything up, including his little cat. And this is where I circle back to the laws of the land and the ways of the land, that keeping the generations connected, keeping that all of the generations, not just three. Let's get as many generations as possible back together. That because of the way that my dad raised me, loved me, took care of me, it was then my turn to do the same for him. So now my dad and I share a home, and he doesn't want for anything, just like he didn't leave me to want for anything. And this means that now it's my job, it's my duty, it's my honor, it's my responsibility, not to be the parent, but to be a caregiver, to make sure that what he needs is provided for him. And that is exactly how I was raised. Those old timers down at Musqueam, because I'm from Musqueam, those old timers who raised me at Musqueam, nobody went hungry. The doors were open, the tea was always on, and there was a big pot of soup on. And if you needed somewhere to get straight, somewhere to detox, my granny could do that work with you. There was no judgment, there was no shame, but you had to do the work, and you had to be willing to get up and continue to work with her afterwards. And this is a huge part of the labor that especially women have done here on these lands forever. And it used to be recognized, it used to be balanced out. Now we see TikToks about it for people to understand that, like, it's not okay. So much of the work that I have done, I will say it's probably been over a decade now that I've been doing this work. For the first 7 years, I literally paid to do this work. I paid for cabs and bus fare. I paid friends for gas, while other people accepted pay for the work that I was doing. And it's only been in the last 3 years that I've been more adequately compensated, and starting with only like $50, which at the time was so much. And even like $50 is always going to seem like a lot of money to me because I'm always planning to not have, because that's what living in poverty teaches us. So that's where the balance of the community coming in and recognizing that the paper, the power of the money, is a myth. It's all monopoly money. The power is in the people. The power is in the connection between the people. We have every opportunity available to put the power back even more in the systems that provide for us by trading and bartering, setting up our own systems of economics and bartering outside of this Canadian system of commodification of dollars, because English is a language of trade and commerce. That's why English doesn't have a lot of the words that my language has and that your own languages have, because our languages aren't just based on dollars. So recognizing the value of who we are and the value of our work, that it is way more than a monetary value, but that monetary value does need to be fair for the work that we do, and that these systems that are built on our backs and that feed on us every day do need to be aware that we're the ones who make it work. That without us, they have to do all their own dirty work. And for us to be able to have time to rest, we had 4 seasons of rest, the equivalent of a year. At a time of loss or upheaval, we would have 4 seasons of rest. Have any of you been able to rest for even like 4 days in a row? I was feeling under the gun the other day, and I heard myself saying like, yeah, no, like I'm tired, I'm really fucking tired, but I got to get up and go because I got to pay the bills, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Just pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills. And then I thought, how do I bring the joy back into my life? And it's hard when we're always chasing the dollars to make sure that we have a home, to make sure that we have food, to make sure that our family has what they need. I saw my dad's runners. They had holes in them. And I said, Papa, your runners. And he said, they're still good. They're still good. He didn't want me to have to work extra to get runners for him. And I thought, you can't have shoes with holes in them, Dad. So we compromised. He agreed that I could find him runners at Wally World. And I brought them to him today, and he was so happy. And I took those runners with the holes, and I said, I'm not going to let you wear these because I don't want your feet to hurt. But why does somebody who's worked so hard his whole life feel like we can't spend money to get him a pair of shoes? I'm personally making huge shifts, not just to decolonize, because decolonization is just kicking down the door. Re-indigenizing is taking up the space. And I want to take up all of that space, and I want to take it up with you. And re-indigenizing, it is a very personal thing, and it is also rooted in the teachings and the ways of the land, and what we're doing right here, right now, the way that this work is happening, the way each of you have turned up with your body, mind, heart, spirit, your medicine, your magic, your voices, your feisty. This is what being here for each other looks like. This is what being the medicine looks like. And I raise my hands to each of you, and I raise my hands to the ones who are out there working and can't be here because they can't take the time off. That I ask that the medicine and all the good that comes out of here ripples out to all of them and to all of our loved ones out here. I ask you all, take a breath with me. Slow exhale. I'm going to finish with a song to call in the ancestors, in whatever way you pray, whatever way you call in your ancestors, mine and yours. I'd love to invite them in to guide us, to wrap us up in safety and love, and to be on their way when the work is done, and also ask that we all make it where we're going after this safely. This is what I always think I'm done. And then I sing the song, and then they're like, oh, yeah, this too. I'm going to leave you with one last thing, that the end goal from the first colonizer foot that made its way onto my ancestors' land was for me to not exist, especially as an Indigenous woman. Where you take out one Indigenous woman, you're removing potentially 500 more Indigenous people from existing. So we know why they've targeted the women, and we know that it's called MMIWG now, or femicide and genocide. But the fact is that all of these things that I've talked about, the power that is in these lands and the power that is in my DNA simply because I get to be on these lands, is something that they cannot kill. They intended for us to be like a working class, a slave class forever. And we are finding our way out of that. The fact that I am now able to provide for my father and I by doing this work, the work that both lines of my grandparents did, that I made it out of the 9-to-5 grind, which was killing me, is testimony that when we gather together and when we unite and when we do our work and when we are accountable to each other and to ourselves, we can go anywhere and we can do anything. Because I'm not even supposed to exist. And not only did I make it out of addiction and all kinds of abuse and all kinds of really fucked up shit, I made it back to me and I made it to my ancestors' ways. And I don't take that lightly, and I want the same thing for everybody else in whatever ways we can make that happen for each other, so that none of us are having to grind anymore. I don't want the system feeding on us. Every single life that these systems take is one life too many. Every loved one that we've lost is a heartbreak that so many people won't understand. So in the ways that you know how, and if you need to learn more, be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with each other. It's the system that we need to smash on, not each other. Haitsapka.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Can we give another hand for Audrey Siegel? I'm feeling some feels here.
Yeah, thank you for those wonderful reminders, Audrey, and that beautiful song. That was fantastic.
Just want to remind folks, if you haven't had a chance to grab some food, it's always a good time to feed yourself if you can. Yeah, and just also always a good reminder when we're eating that someone made that food. Sometimes we make our own food, sometimes we eat with others, sometimes we feed others. Either way, it's our labor that feeds the world. So be sure to grab some food when you can.
Yeah, Taz and I are going to talk a bit about labor, then our speakers are going to come through, going to hear some music. But yeah, just to bring us back to where May Day comes from, it is a day to commemorate labor struggles and wins. And the first time May Day took place was in 1889, and that was to commemorate the Haymarket Affair, and that was in Chicago. In 1889, there were workers fighting for an 8-hour workday, and they were suppressed by officers that came, cops that came in. There were deaths. And so a few years later, in 1889, May Day was used as a day to commemorate what happened. So we can trace May Day back to 1889. Those are the origins, but it's really crucial, and we want to remind everyone, and kind of tied to what Audrey was saying, that our fight for labor, and it has existed way before that. It's crucial that we remember that, and it has been happening all around the world, not just in the US, not just in so-called Canada. We have been fighting, people not unlike ourselves have been struggling against landlords, capitalist bosses, slave owners, our exploitative working conditions for time immemorial. And many of these struggles have been hidden, and they remain invisible in discussions because of the colonial and imperial rule that Canada engages in.
Right, like, because we know that people around the world are being subjected to terrible and horrible working conditions by Canadian companies, right? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous that we sit here and we forget about them sometimes. We're celebrating all those people who are resisting against colonial and imperial rule. It impacts our labor conditions here, but of course they're impacted over there. We celebrate workers who have taken up arms against the Canadian companies. We also celebrate struggles of people working in illicit markets who are criminalized for their work, like sex workers or people providing ethical substance. We uplift and support migrant workers who are, who are not even given the same rights as you and I, often not even considered human, you know? People fucking die in these conditions, and we sit here and we eat the food and we think about sometimes, hey, where did it come from? And if that person's still alive, because sometimes they're not. That's the reality we live in. The people growing, making our foods often don't survive sometimes, you know? Like, these are the conditions that we are struggling against. And we need to keep that in mind. We extend our solidarity to all those workers on these lands, on lands across the seas, all over the world.
Yeah, and it's really important that we connect our struggles to those struggles abroad. And especially on May Day, we need to keep that in mind. There's social justice struggles that are seemingly outside of labor struggles, but they're all actually connected. So we can think about, for example, how the lack of universal free childcare impacts working women, or how trans rights are becoming increasingly under attack across the world, from Turtle Island to the Kwajalein in South Asia, to how building pipelines across Indigenous land inherently impacts Two-Spirit and Indigenous queer folks living, how they live and how they work on their land. These are all labor struggles as well.
Yeah, and today, we must consider and fight against labor's complicity in harm and violence against the people. We don't have to look far. Just up the street, around these neighborhoods, we've got people who are union members, complicit in the harm of people on these streets. It is an absolute fucking shame. And they walk around with the cops, who supposedly say they're also part of a union. Are cops workers?
No.
Are cops workers?
No.
Fuck no. Look, somehow we have considered unions to be automatically good. Right. The ability to organize and collectively make decisions and bargain for our rights is good. But unions are not inherently good. We have to work every single day to make them work for the benefit of the masses, of all people. Whether productive labor or not, I don't even know what that fucking means. Somehow some jobs are better than others? Somehow some people are better than others? No. We all deserve everything that we create. Every single thing that we create. And with that being said, we do support the workers that are striking. We do support their struggles for fair contract, for fair wages. We do support their struggles. We stand here, we remember them, we'll be on the picket lines. And today, we will be hearing from some folks who have been on those picket lines. To begin, we will bring up Garth Mullins. Garth is a longtime activist. Garth has been around for a while. He's been a mentor to many. He's been an inspiration to many. Garth is an opioid user, as well as a member of the Vancouver area network of drug users, as well as the BC Association of People on Methadone. Garth is a labor activist, and he's been a drug user and a drug user activist for decades. He is the host of the award-winning Crackdown podcast, and it's my pleasure, Garth, to hand you this mic.
Cheers, thanks very much. It's an honor to be here on May Day. This is International Workers' Day, however you define that. I define that in my own life. I've been a union member, proud union member for 20 years. I've been on the picket lines the last couple weeks, but I've also been a worker in some sectors that are not traditionally considered to be that respectable kind of sector. So I've been a sex worker when I was young, when I was 20 21, 22 in my early years. I've been a drug worker. You know, I think we all have at different times been employed in that kind of area. And I've been an opioid user since I was a kid. And I also agree with you that I've never seen cops to support the struggle of the working class. I've seen cops undermining it. And this park, let me tell you, this park is evidence of that. In the 1930s, when there was a big depression, people came from what they called relief camps. Before there was welfare, there was actual camps run by the government where you would be forced to work and you would get shitty food. And the people in those camps, when those camps were even getting defunded more, said, fuck this. They marched into Vancouver. They occupied the nicest hotel. They occupied the post office. And then the cops came in. Fucking A. It was a huge movement. We got on trains, like people from, 100 years ago or whatever, got on trains and went out to Ottawa from here. It's called the On to Ottawa Trek. But the police came into those occupations and they bloodied us. And they unnecessarily, they stormed it. They occupied it. And we gathered here in this park, 10,000 of us in the mid-30s, and said, fuck no, we want more. We want more of this big pie that's being created on our labor. We want a fair slice of it. And that's what people have been doing the last 2 weeks. The Public Services Alliance of Canada is a union of predominantly of women, and they were striking just to keep their pay up with inflation because everyone's pay was falling behind. And so there's plenty of people that work in the jobs in that union who are going to work 8 hours a day and then having to do another job on top of that, or having to go to the food bank or whatever. And I know a lot of people around here do that too and work really hard, but the union was representing them and saying, fuck that. We actually need a fair contract. People need fair wages. And the union and the employer settled late last night or early this morning. And, it's not the greatest contract, but at least it's not a total defeat for the union, because sometimes in these big strike situations, the employer wants to wipe the union right off the map. They always want to do that. And so the fact that they didn't, the fact that we stood strong, I went to those picket lines in solidarity just about every day of the strike. That's what I do. You could see people. You could see people who are questioning the relationship of the employer. You could see people who are questioning, like, the old habits of trade unionism. And there's another piece of history, too. And the previous speaker was saying unions don't always do the right thing, and that's very true. Back here in, 1907, there was a white riot, a white pogrom, a protest of racism, of xenophobia, of a panic about Chinese immigration and jobs and all that. People came to the old city hall, used to be right beside Carnegie, and they rioted. All the white people in Vancouver, most of them rioted, and they came and smashed up Chinatown, smashed up Japantown. And there were unions supporting that. There were unions in there. And that riot led to the federal government sending somebody out here to do a little compensation for broken windows, and that person saw opium being produced. And they were shocked, and they wrote a report back to Ottawa, and that's where our modern drug prohibition comes from. It comes from that racist white riot that happened here. And if those unions had something to do with that, because some union members did, some even bigwigs did, then the labor movement of today has a historical obligation to tear down the drug war, to tear down prohibition that those union members had a hand in starting. And that's what we should remember today, because back in Chicago, where this day came from, the Haymarket riot, and the workers that got killed for that, the demand was for an 8-hour day. Well, we need to keep that demand moving. We can't stop at an 8-hour day. We need a 4-day week or less or whatever. But it's amazing that the demand that we're carrying now, that needs to be a working class demand, is this: stop fucking killing us. Stop fucking killing us with your putting capitalist production over top of public health, by taking the economy more seriously than the pandemic measures that they did, by taking production more seriously than the fucking temperature of the planet, so that 600 of us died in the heat dome 2 years ago. That they're prioritizing Bill C-7 from the medical assistance in dying, so that it's actually easier for people to get medical assisted death than it is to get a new wheelchair or to get affordable housing. That the police continue to kill people in record numbers, particularly if you're black or indigenous. and that the drug war continues to kill thousands and thousands of us. And the governments have learned this terrible lesson. You can kill thousands of us, and there's no consequences. They don't have to resign. No minister gets bumped out of cabinet. No election gets called. No government falls. They keep on. We got to change that. We got to make sure there is a fucking consequence. We got to make sure there are serious, high consequences for when we get killed. The government has to pay. We've got to twist arms because nothing has ever come easy. Because that 8-hour day, that wasn't just the nice thing that was handed to us by the ruling class and the government. We fought for decades before that. Just like pay equity didn't come easy. The same people who were on strike over the last 2 weeks, they fought for that. We still haven't won that fight, but that was them. The fact that you can get parental leave. So if you're at work and you get pregnant in this country, that you can get 2 weeks off. Sorry, you can get as many weeks off as up to now 18 months. But that strike comes from postal workers, comes from the Public Service Alliance of Canada striking a generation ago. That's how these things move. And so when I was in my early 20s, when I walked on some of those early picket lines, I thought, we're going to change the world. That people have big dreams about returning a sense of justice here that was here before colonization, about dreams of socialism, of anarchism, of syndicalism. And now those dreams have gotten reduced to one phrase: stop fucking killing us. And we're going to have to say it to them again and again. And when we march, we've got to make sure that the union movement of this country understands that the thousands that die from the drug war, that's a working class issue. That's not just on the 100 block of East Hastings. That's in every postal code in this city, every city in this province, every province in this country, all over North America. It's international. The working class has to fucking understand that, especially the unions, because it's the working class who is paying with our lives. And until and unless the union movement understands that, we're still going to be on the outside of it sometimes. I can tell you, though, in the last 6 or 8 months, we've had we've had early successes with different unions of different sectors starting to understand that the drug war is something that affects them, that we've raised the demand, stop the drug war on the shop floor, and they've joined us, that the trade union movement is starting to understand that they're marching in the same fight as the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, and that the union movement's ability to go on strike, to withdraw our labor, to fucking shut the lights off on Parliament Hill, that's a strong weapon. And that weapon needs to come together with the traditional activities, law-breaking, direct action that we've used around here. Near this park was the first unsanctioned safe injection site that ever opened in this city. And it was using that kind of civil disobedience. That's what got us sanctioned safe injection sites. So we got to march and strike, but sometimes we also got to use direct action and civil disobedience. It's always been that way from now all the way back to the Haymarket riot and before. So I want to say thanks very much. I just came from the funeral of a friend of ours, Sue. So I won't say in case you haven't heard before, at Glenhaven Funeral Home. And it's just a reminder to me that we keep dying. And over this weekend, a good comrade of ours from the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, Boomer, also died. We have to put an end to it. We have to build a better and more humane society for everybody. And the reason International Workers' Day is important is not because that 8 hours that you spend at work is the most important 8, but withdrawing your labor from that can sometimes change history because you pull the plug on capitalism. And the working class of Canada has to remember that we are a slumbering giant. We have that incredible history-changing strength. And the last 2 weeks, a big bunch of them, 150,000 people, suddenly remembered that power. We have to get that power together so that we don't have more boomers and Sues dying, so that we don't have more cops killing people in the streets, so that we don't have the drug war going on, so we don't have more heat domes where people die unnecessarily because of austerity. So I want to thank you very much for hearing me out, and stay safe and keep 6, everybody.
Thank you, Garth. Thank you, Garth. Thank you. Can we please get another round of applause for Garth?
Yeah, we have to organize and bargain for the common good, not just a class of professionals or government workers. We need to remember this. And there needs to be consequences. Thank you for that reminder, Garth.
Yeah, capitalism truly is a death cult.
Absolutely. We're going to have another speaker go. Our next speaker is Tristan. He's a friend and comrade of mine. And he's a labor organizer, and he's going to have some awesome things to say. Can everyone give a warm welcome to Tristan?
Hello. Thank you. Garth stole a little bit of what I was going to talk about, actually. I was going to mention Bloody Sunday being a big one, but hello, Neat. Tristan Diwayu, Tsimshianu, Kanada Dipatagan, Ada Chain, Ada Kitsamkalam Diwawatku, Awil Tamis Diwatogan. My name's Tristan. I'm Tsimshian. I'm from a place called Prince Rupert. My family's from an area called Kitsamkalam. It's a reserve just outside of Terrace, BC. Before I moved down here to Vancouver, I live actually out in New West now. So I'd just like to give a shout out to sort of my family in general, because I think maybe a good place for me to riff off of what else has been said is just the personal note of a lot of what brings me the knowledge that I have, the will to organize that I do, and the connections with community that I do have existed in my family for hundreds of years. And it's that type of strength that really continues to propel me going forward. Is so much of what I've gone into has been experientially living through things, watching the people that I love, that I have grown up with, that I have spent my life with, really fight hard. And fight hard for me to be able to have a life that is different from my parents' life, that is different from my grandparents' life, that is different from my JS and my AS and the things that they had to fight for to make sure that all of their children continued to be strong. And a big part of that, of course, is within labor. And I think a big part of, too, you know, even just echoing on what everybody else has said, is that the struggle and the fight within labor goes so much further beyond that, right? Even thinking about Bloody Sunday being a situation where that was a large amount of people that were actually unemployed, that came together as unemployed men to form a union and begin this fight. That was a huge push, right? That is a really big signal, I think, that we need to remember, that unionizing is beyond just a singular work site or a singular place of employment. Unionizing is bringing together all people that produce everything and own nothing. Everybody whose labor is there creating and generating change, generating wealth, generating good in the communities, and yet we do not get to actually receive the true profits and the true value of that. That is so many people beyond simply those who are strictly directly employed by a traditional contract. And I think that that sort of movement was a really big highlight of that. After the police brutality broke out and like 43 people were hospitalized in that event, almost immediately did those over 10,000 people come down here to Oppenheimer to begin to protest that. That is a huge ripple effect of what the labor movement can really do. And even thinking about stuff like those railways and the camps along them going out toward Ottawa, a really cool thing that the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World, did there when those workers needed to strike and they were living in terrible conditions within their camps, was actually went and looked at all of each other and said, we do this work. We have these skills. Let's just build our own camps. And that's exactly what they did. Their camps that were provided for them for work were unlivable, so they just simply built new ones, and they sat in them and they striked against their jobs. I think about this all the time when I'm doing my own sorts of bits of organizing work. The workplace that I work at now organized just last summer. And when I was beginning to have those conversations with my coworkers, a lot of what my goal is really wanting to just empower people to understand that they have skill, value, power, that regardless of what the outcome of us coming together and talking really ends up being, I want every single person that I talk to recognize that they can, that they have a voice, that they can stand up, that they can walk away from this if they want to, that they have the choice and they have the ability to come together and actually start something really grand and really new. A really powerful quote that I can never remember who says anything ever, but a really, really good quote that I like to keep in mind whenever we are looking at stuff like the Peace Act strike and getting a tentative agreement that's good, but it's not excellent, which is most situations of us bargaining and organizing, protesting, struggling, we maybe get a little bit, but we don't get everything. The quote I remember all of the time is that labor will lose every single battle until the last one. And that's kind of the reality of the situation, is that this is hard work. And it's founded and upheld by each of us holding on to each other as community. By each of us valuing the type of labor we can all do, that we are already doing, regardless of whether it's being seen or not, whether it's being validated, whether it's being paid for properly or not. To be able to take all of those together and form a community where we are self-sustaining, where we are doing it ourselves, where we are caring for one another, and we are really doing those fights to get that little bit each step of the way, to make sure that our kids are doing better, that our grandkids are doing better, that every generation going forward is doing a little bit better. And I think that that's my big echoing sentiment for everybody, is remembering, 100 or so years ago, we had, during the period of war and Great Depression, we had a really massive movement that took on a lot of brutality, where people died, where people got hurt, and they fought really hard to get us the bit that we have now, to make sure that we can continue on fighting, to make sure that we can continue building community under conditions that are frankly a little tiny bit more tolerable, a little bit more breathable than they were before, because everyone before us continued to fight and continued to come out to exactly these sorts of things, to have these kinds of discussions, to talk to their coworkers, to talk to their neighbors, to get to know the people on their block, in their community, to learn what it is that they would like to do, what brings them passion, what brings them inspiration, and bringing all those people together and recognizing, you know what we don't need is a boss. Every single one of us will want to contribute to our community because we're in the community. We are a part of it. We will work always, regardless of whether or not people are telling us to, regardless of whether or not people are regulating that piece of work from this current weird, strange standard of unilateral power and control that bosses have now. We don't need that, because at the end of the day, every single one of us is connected to each other as community members, as people of a collective, as people that love one another, as people that need every single one of our community members to thrive so that we can continue fighting going forward. Okay, that's me. That's all my stuff to say. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm glad seeing you out here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tristan. A big round of applause for Tristan, please. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Tristan. No, I could do that. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, we're gonna have a musical performance now. Thank you, Tristan. That was amazing. Fuck bosses, fuck managers. We don't need them. Our next, or our first performer, actually, musical performer, is Number One Special. They are a Wet'suwet'en Two-Spirit musician and songwriter. After working on various music projects over the years and being part of several performing bands, Number One Special has decided to take their music inward, focus on creating their own personal sound, personifying high-energy melancholy through a vibrant folk punk sound. So can everyone give them a warm welcome?
Hey there, everyone. My name is Number One Special, and I'm here to play some songs for you. I'm going to just jump right into it. And this first one is called What Comes Next. a chip on your shoulder. You're being oppressed. Can things really be this bad, or are you feeling depressed? It might be a bit of both. You might be brainwashed a bit, but that doesn't change the fact that they'll treat you like shit. Now it's all coming down for sure. I see through your veil, my friend. You say, but you seldom show, and that's how we'll meet our end. 'Cause I'm always pretty low, but how can I tell you when? I'm pretty sure you know, and this is just what comes next. You got a look on your face now. It looks kinda sad, 'cause you spent all of your time thinking about what you had. You've been told how to heal, and you think you got the gist, but you can't get what you want if you keep living like this. Now it's all coming down for sure. I see through your veil, my friend. You say, but you seldom show, and that's how we'll meet our end. 'Cause I'm always pretty low, but how can I tell you when? I'm pretty sure you know, and this is just what comes next. You got a chip on your shoulder. You got a look on your face, and it's so sad. You got a chip on your shoulder. You're being oppressed. Can things really be this bad, or are you feeling depressed? It might be a bit of both. You might be brainwashed a bit, but that doesn't change the fact that they'll treat you like shit. You got a look on your face now. It looks kinda sad, 'cause you spent all of your time thinking about what you had. You've been told how to heal, and you think you got the gist, but you can't get what you want if you keep living like this. Now it's all coming down for sure. I see through your veil, my friend. You say, but you seldom show, and that's how we'll meet our end. 'Cause I'm always pretty low, but how can I tell you when? I'm pretty sure you know, and this is just what comes next. Thank you, thank you. These next two songs are kind of joined together at this point, and they're just about what I feel living within a colonial estate has been like. Woo. I would die alone in my room if you'd let me. I'll have another last cigarette if you get me. And I live in such a wonderful world, so it upsets me when it deserves to burn up in a fire, a roaring 20s. They got men, women, other and child's calling the army. They're threatening us with no more wars, trying to strong arm me, he says. From a super propaganda machine, now it's on TV. But we don't watch the television no more, so you can't hate me. And I feel the If you know, then you know. We're watching bullets fly through the streets while it's on live feed. These emotions totally fried, so why not concede? 'Cause doing something when it is right, well, that's its own treat. So why do you go and turn a blind eye when it's your own street? And I feel the temperature rising, the tension is higher. I ask then, will you pay attention to our plight for more than a cheap light? This is about more than your ego. If you know, then you know. And I feel like a broken record, 'cause people take help for their actions, 'cause they help when you ask them, and they're tired from doing all the work. So now's a good time for you to show. If you know, then you know. I can't be a part of this time. I'm caught up in a new life, and I can't see it going any other way. I feel like I'm always under attack. I just want my land back, and I want to be able to live my life just like you should know the way I feel. And if you don't, then take another look around this false country and find the truth. Its politeness is hiding. I've seen it with my own eyes, and there are ones who will deny. Don't change the name to save your face, just call it genocide. And I've seen it with my own eyes, and there are some who still deny. Don't change the name to hide the pain, just call it genocide. A brother tells his little sister, don't go out to that mixer. There are some things out there I wish you didn't have to know. The men camps here are falling, and the men there are appalling. And I'm sorry, little sister, but they're going after you. Should know the way I live, and if you don't, then take another look around this dead country and kill the hate. Its politeness is hiding. I've seen it with my own eyes, and there are some who still deny. Don't change the name save your face. Just call it genocide. I've seen it with my own eyes, and there's some who still deny. Don't change the name to hide the pain. Just call it genocide. I know we're living life in stitches. My people die in ditches. No one finds the indigenous. We're not the same. You know the planet's getting hotter, and you've ruined all our water. It's all fucked up, and the only one to blame is you. Don't know the way I feel, so shut your mouth and use your ears. Listen close. You took my rights, sir. I have no choice but to fight. You don't know the way I live, and since you don't, just take another look at yourself in the mirror and make sure you're not who I fear. I've seen it with my own eyes. There are ones who will deny. Don't change the name to save your face. Just call it genocide. And I've seen it with my own eyes, and there are ones who will deny. Don't change the name to hide the pain. Just call it genocide. I've seen it with my own eyes, and there are ones who will deny. Don't change the name to save your face. Just call it genocide. And I've seen with my own eyes, and there are some who still deny. Don't change the name, just hide the pain. Just call it genocide. Just call it genocide. Just call it genocide. Just call it genocide. Thank you, thank you. That last one was called Land Back, and the one before that was called If You Know, You Know. This is my last song. This one I wrote when I was about 20, and it's about feeling completely disillusioned with reality because of being in the workforce for 5 years. This one's called They Might Go. Walk the sands of the earth. I thought a lot about time. It's all an hourglass figure, baby, and I'm just worried about mine. I don't wanna know. It's so much better to not. I think circles in my head, and my thoughts just sit here to rot. I know I'm running in place. I'm such a disgrace by my childhood standards. I know I'll jump up with haste, no regard for misplaced steps or wherever they might go. They might go, they might go. Don't you know? I rock around the whole town. Some box at my feet. I'll make a noise so loud you can hear it. all the way through the streets. I think about all the wares that I have made and then sold, for another man's profit, baby. Oh man, it never gets old. I know I'm running in place. I'm such a disgrace by my childhood standards. I know I'll jump up with haste, no regard for misplaced steps or wherever they might go. They might go, they might go, don't you know? And if we're falling through our dreams and coming apart at the seams, so it seems, darling, I think I want you next to me. And we can fall down endlessly. I got you if you got me. I walked the sands of the earth, I rocked around the whole town. I thought a lot about time and how it brings us all down. It's all an hourglass figure, baby, all for another man's profit, baby. And now I'm spiraling, going crazy, and I'm the only one who can save me. I know I'm running in place. I'm such a disgrace by my childhood standards. I know I'll jump up with haste, no regard for misplaced steps or wherever they might go. They might go, they might go, don't you know? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello. Wow. Corbin. Wow. Thank you. I feel like I said this earlier, and I'm going to say it again. I am feeling a lot of feels here right now. It's also a privilege of mine today to be able to have George Manuel Jr. on here with us, who will be presenting us with a song and drumming for us. George, you need a mic?
Heute gehört Skolens Disquest, Schwaben Nation. I'm come from the interior of British Columbia, which I prefer to call beautiful country. I'm from the Shuswap Nation. My brother is Arthur Manuel and my father is George Manuel Sr. I wish to sing a wake-up song to you. I share with the people. I like to sing this song. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake
thank you for such a wonderful song. That was really uplifting. I'm sure it filled everyone's spirits just as much as it did mine. Yeah, that's so wonderful that to have you here. We have another speaker up next. Their name is Ro, and they're from Anakbayan, BC. Ro is a care aide, an activist, and an artist. They're first-generation Canadian born and raised in Vancouver, devoted to helping the elderly and serving the masses. Ro?
Test. That's okay, yeah. Okay, hi, hello, my name is Ro. Warm and militant greetings. As Yasmin just said, I am a youth activist, chairman of Anakbayan, BC, a Filipino organization fighting for the genuine change and a national liberation of the Philippines through a socialist perspective. So today we celebrate International Workers' Day, also known as May Day, but are workers really valued? Every day, 60,000 Filipinos leave their home country to become so-called value workers to fill in labor shortages. Shortages caused by the active choice by our government to not invest in these crucial sectors like healthcare, public infrastructure, childcare, education, and much more. They come in the hopes that they will be able to bring their family to Canada for what they think is a better future. In reality, we have thousands upon thousands of international students, nannies, nurses, and youth who face exploitation. Nurses who have trained overseas and who have had years of skill and sacrifice have their degrees being invalidated and not recognized solely based on what side of a boundary that they are from. Ken Sim, oh boy. Ken Sim said he would be adding extra nurses to the downtown east side workforce. The nurses we currently have are overworked to the bone. The places these people are supposed to go are no better conditions than the streets they are on. Where will he get the workforce from? Will he negotiate the nursing contracts? Will he fulfill his promises? Or will he keep filling the VPD salary and continue to harass the homeless? CUPE and HEU, which are the two largest unions in public care, are being ignored in regards to the street sweeps. The two largest sectors are being ignored on how to care for our unhoused neighbors. Their sole purpose is to care for others. Instead, we have an overfunded asset protection trying to claw away the last of their dignity in hopes that they leave. And for our Filipinos who do enter straight into the workforce after immigrating, their bosses take advantage of their precarious situations. International students can only work 40 hours a week. On top of rising living costs, they are paying back inflated student loans and tuition on top of studying full-time. Many students have to take up jobs that pay them under the table and deny them of their rights as workers. If we try to take a stand for their rights, they might not be able to gain permanent residence and face deportation. From what little wages they make, the dollars that are remitted back home are taxed heavily. Both governments continue to take and take away from their people, and where does it go? Canadian and Filipino tax money is being wasted on a larger scale as well as an international level. The same money funding the sweeps is being sent overseas to militarize the Philippines in the name of profits. Indigenous schools and communities in the Philippines are being bombed regularly to protect against so-called anti-terrorist efforts. However, we know their true purpose is to stop Filipino revolutionaries who are resisting Imperial Canada's mining companies. As Mao said, to see someone harming the interests of the masses and yet not to feel indignant or dissuaded or stop him or reason with him, but to allow him to continue is a liberalism. The masses in Canada and the Philippines are being harmed every day by a government that only cares to fill their pockets with blood money. Before our dollars are remitted back home, the government takes, and where does that money go? I'm going to repeat this again. Not only the money does not go to our programs, not nearly enough. We keep us safe. It's sent to fund wars overseas. It's sent to send bombs to schools in our indigenous regions. It's currently being sent to build 4 new military bases in the Filipino provinces, bringing the total to 9 in a country that has no active war. It's taken from our people here and at home to prep for inter-imperialistic conflict. From man camps on indigenous land, to army bases on foreign soil, to VPD shoving our homeless from this very park only a handful of years ago, we must stop being treated like acids and start being treated like dignified humans. We must stand in international proletarian solidarity. Okay, what do I do? I'm done. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ro. Thank you for all your work, your advocacy, for your words. Yeah, as a kid from Pakistan, I definitely resonate with what I've heard today. But enough about me. I have a tendency to put my foot in my mouth, so if I do that, just laugh, okay? Humor me. Anyways, moving on to our next speaker. I am very excited to introduce Kit here from PACE. PACE Society is a peer-driven organization located in the downtown eastside Vancouver. They provide support, advocacy, and education by, with, and for current and former sex workers. PACE seeks to reduce the harm and isolation associated with sex work through education, support, and advocacy. They work to increase the health, safety, and empowerment of our members by respecting their right to self-determination and supporting their self-identified needs. Wouldn't it be great if they can fucking unionize? Yeah. Yes. Kit, there's some more information here about you, and I've been reading off a piece of paper too much, so I'm just gonna pass it to you, yeah?
Hi, I always kind of prefer to introduce myself just because I get awkward and it's a good way to sort of like ease into it. So I want to first say, pardon me, a huge thank you to Vines and to Defund and to FTP for inviting us and really like acknowledging that sex work is valid work. So thank you, really appreciate that. My name's Kit. I am a non-binary Jewish disabled settler. I've been here for about 6 years. I'm also a former sex worker, a long-time former sex worker. And these days I'm the community co-executive director at PACE Society, which Taz generously introduced already. We've been operating and serving all genders in the downtown east side since 1994. And we define sex work as work. It's a consensual exchange of intimacy, affection, emotional or physical labor, fetishistic or sexual acts for material goods. And that could be anything from cash, food, drugs, a safe place to stay, clothes, or whatever else. We view sex work as happening on a continuum of autonomy and choice. And under capitalism, it has to be said that we all have only so much choice in how we survive. But moralistic stigma and the denial of sex workers' autonomy frequently excludes us from celebrations like May Day, despite being members of the oldest profession in the world. But we deserve more. We deserve inclusion and respect. We should be invited to every celebration like this. I'm not here to speak for anybody else. I can only speak to my own experience. But my early employment in kitchens and in piercing and tattoo shops was definitely far more exploitative than the sex work I did throughout my 20s and early 30s. I found my way to sex work, like many people, after experiencing pretty serious chronic pain that prevented me from working in more acceptable job markets. But sex work allowed me to build a life for myself, afford treatments, and medications that weren't covered, and provide the flexibility to work around my own capacity. And I'm not alone. 73% of sex workers who were recently surveyed in Vancouver are also folks with disabilities. And it has to be said that like poverty is one of the biggest drivers for people getting into sex work. And if disability rates were actually a living wage, you might see some kind of a reduction in sex work. Amen. And I learned back then in my 20s, and it has really never left me, that sex work is work. And more than that, it's care work. It involves very real, emotional, and physical and mental labor, just like any other job. And it shares characteristics with other forms of physical and emotional care work, all of which were traditionally viewed as women's work, were undervalued by society, and are currently still underpaid. But sex work is further devalued as care work and as feminized labor because it is often exceptionalized as a moral issue. Sex work gets singled out due to its criminal nature. And the laws in Canada aren't designed to protect sex workers. They're actually designed to protect the public from the harms of sex work. Laws make it illegal for people to do this work safely. It prevents workers from sharing a space, engaging employees who could make their work safer and more lucrative, and it prevents people from organizing their workplaces to demand better working conditions. It means that across Turtle Island, our workplaces are heavily surveilled, and many experience harassment at the hands of law enforcement officers. Laws push our clients, our income, underground for fear of criminalization, which makes it harder for us to screen and meet people safely. Laws and xenophobic prohibitions have created a system where folks who lack citizenship are denied access to resources and supports due to the nature of their work. So we have to define sex work as work unflinchingly, no matter who is doing it. Because all of these laws disproportionately affect Black, Indigenous, and Brown folks, as well as trans, two-spirit, and gender non-conforming people. And sex workers know that we can't rely on the state to protect us. We have to protect each other. Historically, May Day is a really big day for sex workers in Vancouver, as May 1st marked the first day of an action that saw sex workers and their supporters in the West End occupy the Christchurch Cathedral in 1984 amidst a public campaign of displacement. It was, this action was undertaken by a group called the Alliance for Safety of Prostitutes in an effort to make the BC government lift an injunction that had recently been placed that declared prostitutes were a public nuisance and made those guilty of solicitation subject to either a $2,000 fine or 2 years in jail if they were unable to pay this fine. Sex workers in the West End also experienced an increase in police harassment under this injunction, and so this action was in protest of that, and it mimicked earlier protests in France in 1975 and in the UK in 1982, where sex worker-led groups occupied churches, which are historically supposed to be a place of refuge and sanctuary. You know, supposedly, I say that real tongue-in-cheek. In demand of more rights and better working conditions and an end to the police violence and harassment. So sex workers have really been like labor organizers forever. And across the globe, sex workers are turning to labor movements and frequently being accepted by them as a way to provide them with workers' rights and safer conditions. In BC, Move Up in 2019, which is a BC union, took a public stance in support of decrim. And in March of 2021, the BC Federation of Labor took a similar stance, announcing on their social media that sex workers deserve the full employment standards and health and safety protections afforded to all other workers. Can't say how much I agree with that enough. In the US, the Lusty Lady was the first unionized strip club, and it unionized in 1997 in response to racist booking practices and policies that endangered their peers. And in 2003, the bar was bought and operated by workers before finally closing in 2013. Currently, there's a bar called Star Garden in North Hollywood who's filed to join a labor union pretty recently. They're still waiting on a response. And that was in response to workplace safety and, again, like racist hiring and labor practices. Globally, there's other things. In southern India, there's the Karnataka Sex Workers Union, which was formed to combat unsafe working conditions and to advocate for legal rights in 2006. With 2,300 members of all genders, it's the biggest sex worker union in the world. And in part thanks to their tireless work, in 2002, sex work was officially acknowledged as a profession by the Indian Supreme Court. And again, this is not to say that unions aren't problematic. They are sometimes corrupt. And like we are all well aware, CUPE here is currently not allowing their workers to refuse the unsafe work of displacing people. And we know that displacing people experiencing homelessness just puts them in greater precarity and greater risk. Sex workers have a lot to learn from labor movements, but the labor movement needs us too. They have so much to learn from sex workers who are actively, constantly rejecting exploitative square work, who are endlessly innovating in their activism, and who have been demanding better rights and working conditions for so long without the support of the state. It seems as though joining or creating a union is a really daunting, complex, or time-consuming process, but that's actually not the case. People come together naturally all the time to create unions, like tenancy unions. They're formed on the spot because of a need and continue to grow and shift like any grassroots organization. And a sex workers union doesn't need to be any different. And I have to be honest, I have dreamed of there being a sex workers union in the downtown east side since I moved here. And we don't really need the backing of like a massive nationally recognized labor union. If community wants to create a union for sex workers, that power is 100% within our hands. So I encourage workers to work together to form smaller co-ops, associations, and grassroots unions to support one another. I encourage allies to use your privileges to support, educate, destigmatize, and legitimize sex work as work. If you work in policy, you can work towards creating policy that decriminalizes sex work, including sex work done by migrant and undocumented folks. So in closing, I just want to give another huge thank you to Vines and to Defund and to FTP once again for recognizing sex work as a valid form of labor and for inviting us to speak alongside such awesome and wonderful humans on such a wicked day. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Kit. That was wonderful. Thank you for reminding us sex work is work. And yeah, a sex work union sounds awesome. Let's get that going. We have another speaker up next, Hesed. Hesed's from Migrante, BC. She came to Canada in 2014 under the Live-In Caregiver program. She was a registered nurse back home in the Philippines, but due to the economic crisis, she was forced to come to Canada to seek out better work opportunities so she could provide for her daughter and family who were back home in the Philippines. As a caregiver, Hesed was met with abuse, wage theft, questionable working hours, no overtime pay, no holiday pay or lieu, amongst other exploitations. And she was terminated for asserting her rights and ultimately lost her job and home. Hesed was homeless and jobless for a year, couch surfing at Migrante BC's Collective House, which is where she became involved with militant grassroots organizing, as she saw that work abuse of this kind happens to many, many women and mothers in Canada like herself. Hesed?
Thank you. Wow. Again, my name is Hesed, and I'd like to express my deepest gratitude and solidarity today as I speak, work, live, and organize on the unceded traditional territories, or so-called Vancouver. And on behalf of Migrante BC, I extend our warmest and most militant greetings with everyone today. Today is International Workers' Day, a day in which we celebrate and draw inspiration from workers who collectively won the right to an 8-hour workday. It's a day in which workers were victorious in their pursuit to resist exploitation at work. However, we are living today in a contradictory time wherein some workers can enjoy their 8-hour workdays while some are still made to work long hours without overtime pay. We're living and working at a time where some workers get to enjoy paid holidays and sick days, while other workers here have no breaks. These are our migrant workers in farms, in service sectors, and in Canadian homes caring for children, the sick, and the elderly. Migrant workers have long been demanding for status, for protection, for just and fair treatment, and yet the answer of the Canadian government is to continually police them, deport them, and leave them unprotected in the hands of unscrupulous employers. Migrant workers are part of the working class of Canada, and their labor remains cheap, unseen, invisible, and replaceable. We must unite with migrants, undocumented workers, unwanted people who continually help to prop up the Canadian economy. We must remember that injustice towards one worker is an injustice to all workers. An injury to one of us is an injury to all of us. While we live and work in so-called Canada, we stand in solidarity with the working poor. We stand with you to oppose policing and street sweeps. We stand with you against homelessness, the rising cost of living, and against gentrification of working class communities. As long as we stand united against the very system, the capitalist and imperialist system that has pitted workers against each other, then we will see victory, because the workers are the makers of history. Long live to our migrant workers, long live to the working class, and long live international solidarity.
Yeah. Give it up for Hesed. Yeah. What a day. Thank you so much for all of you to be here. We're not done yet. We're not. We've got more for you. we've got some stylings by Max Still Sad. I mean, I'm not sad. I'm glad that you're here. But I'm excited to be presenting to you Max Still Sad. Yeah. Yeah, do it. Do it.
Hi. I'm going to do a small introduction before I start. So I'm Macaulay, or Zachariah. I am a Cree Blackfoot musician, originally from Alberta, but I moved here in 2015 to leave some unsafe working conditions that I had. I was kicked out of my home at 11 years old due to mental instability from my family life. And I got involved in some really harsh and unsafe working conditions under the sex work I had to do to survive on the streets in Edmonton. And ever since moving to Vancouver, or just in the general area, being very wary of people, I didn't really know how to access resources. And finally, through meeting people like the organizers of DOLF, or the organizers of Vandu, or the organizers of Insight, or the organizers of Pace Society, or the organizers of the Wish Women's Center, I learned to trust again and find better sources of income for myself. Where is it? There's it. So I'm going to play a bunch of little songs to you. This is my solo project called Mac Is Still Sad, because as per usual, I'm sad. Come on, dude. Got it. Oh, we got it. It's all tangled up. We got it. Oh, you're a gem. Thank you so much. Alrighty. So this first song that I'm gonna play for you, I don't have a title for it yet, but it's a little. Can you pass my capo out of my? I totally forgot to bring that. I'm withdrawing really bad today, guys. I'm 5 days sober off Dilaudid. Fuck yeah. But yeah, this first song, I kind of wrote about kind of just the exhaustion of like expecting to be a part of the workforce in the first place. I have a chronic condition called ankylosing spondylitis, and so working is really hard for me, thus me getting into sex work when I was homeless. And I guess this song kind of represents how a lot of that felt for me. But yeah, let's do it. Actually, this should be on Capo 1. I'm not smart. Okay. I think I'm more tired than I've ever felt before. Thought this distance would bring healing, but I'm still wanting more. Record scratch, freeze frame to me, crushing up pills on the floor, but I'm still wanting more. I've been off my meds now for about 300 or so days, and I can tell that who I was and now isn't the with this extra weight that's on my chest. I'd tear it off, given the chance. I'd rip it raw, bloody and sore, so it can't hurt me anymore. Oh, and when will my self-love finally come natural to me? And when will I stop cutting the baby soft flesh off my body? And when will I accept that this body's forever my own? I don't want to be alone with myself, because I take myself off the top shelf, and I will track this knife across my jaw to sculpt it out better than it ever was, and I'll take this knife and I'll plunge it deep inside, 'cause I know from myself I can't hide. And when will I accept that I wasn't given this body just to torment me? Thank you. Awesome. Alrighty, what was the next one? What's the next one? I didn't really plan this well enough. I'll send you my paper from over there. It'll have the lyrics on it. That's for the third one. I'm trying to think of what I want to do for the second one, because I have a bunch of good songs that we could do. I didn't really set up my set. I'm kind of a baby. Let's do, you know what? We're going to play a song that I have called Foundations. So more context. So my dad was a queer heroin user during the AIDS epidemic. He ended up dying of HIV. Well, toxoplasmosis specifically, when I was 4. And I guess that weird shadow of his issues kind of perpetuated over me, generational trauma and all that fucking jazz. And I think a lot of the work that I do and the people that I love do to make the lives of our community better, my passion for that is very deeply rooted in that loss. So yeah, we'll play that song. My face is burning, the scabs are all turning black. Black peeling off of my arms and into the drain. Along with my shame, it tars black and it sinks underneath the pipes of this house that my father built before he died of disease. And here he left me so heroin chic with all of the pain of those before me. And I've become tired of being alone, taking care of this house that isn't a home. The wallpaper peels, it's constantly cold. The spirits live here and I can't let them go. The house my father built before he and others I loved died of addiction disease. Shame begets rage, then rage into hate. It burns under this mask that was carved out for me. But can they only see the drugs I used to conceal? Generational traumas and all of the horrors. These things that condition me to lash out and seethe and tear with my teeth all of the things that I wanted to be. And I've become feral and scared of myself. Taking care of this house isn't good for my health. The walls are asbestos, there's mold on the shelves. Where I keep my heart and my dope to myself. The house my father built just for me to sit and wither while I die of addiction disease. This isn't what my mother wanted for me, but I'm infected with problems she couldn't foresee. Died from addiction disease. Oh no, fucking help me to breathe. 'Cause I've got addiction disease.
You can't find it? I might have it. Hold on. We have one last song. Maybe one or two. I gotta find it. It's not in your bag. It's not in my bag. This one, but that's not it. That's not it. Yeah. I can't find the one. It might be in the. I tried the main compartment too. That sucks. I don't know where the other half of my lyrics are to this song I wrote today for this fucking exact event. It might be in the guitar bag. Did you check? What? No, it's like a smaller one. It might be in like the. It might be in the front one. Well, fuck it. We'll do a different one then. We'll do a different one. I'm gonna stand for this one. We're gonna stand. I stand for this one. Let's do. You know what? I always like to have a moment. So 2 years ago, the absolute love of my life, Ethan Schwann, he overdosed. He was 17 years old. Me and the people who knew him really saw him as like the dude that was gonna make it through. So him dying before all of us really fucked us up. And I high-key think it was due to the like labor conditions that he was under and the poverty that just absolutely crushed down on him every single fucking day, the lack of resources, the lack of opportunities in smaller, more rural areas like Maple Ridge, Abbotsford, Chilliwack. These are areas that we still need to focus on, we still need to put resources into. And so, yeah, I'm going to play a song that I wrote for him because, you know, survivor's guilt. It's a gang. Survivor guilt gang.
I've run out of words to savor how shit you made me feel. We built our nest out of clay and it washed away with the rain. Then the mud and rock started to slip and I felt just like a kid. Oh no. There he goes. I asked, have you tried this before? And you lied to me, said you did. Now I watch this child lose themselves, but look out, here comes the wind. and your ankle slipped and you fell right in, and you say to me, Zach, I love it. Oh no, there he goes. Oh no, I said that you remind me of him, and your voice stopped. I meant it. I swear you scared me half to death when you quoted what he said that night 2 years ago when he called my phone and I said I wouldn't go. Oh no, now he's gone. Oh no, now he's gone. And someday I'll have to start asking myself, am I to blame when I picked the rocks and the mud and the clay in a place that I knew it would rain? Am I responsible? Who am I talking to? And my friends are dead anyway. But they just have nothing to say. And I guess now I get how it feels to love someone you'd wanna heal. Oh no, there he goes. Powder up his nose, such a fucking pro. There he goes. There he goes. Oh no.
Wonderful. How much time do I have left? Do I have enough time for one more song? Do I have time for one more? Cool. I take my jacket off. Hold up. You give me a thumbs up? Yeah, I can do one more. I can do one more. Fuck yeah. I take my jacket off. Woo. Ooh. Okay. Oh, this one's really cute. I wrote a cute. So in therapy, my therapist was talking about like healing your inner child and stuff like that. I don't know if anybody's done that kind of therapy, family systems therapy, MDR therapy, stuff like that. And I realized like I had a lot of animosity towards younger me for just like trying to survive, like just trying to live and just trying to not fucking die every single day. And I shit on myself so fucking hard for the things that I had to do to live, to be here right now at 21 years old, which I'm telling you, I really did not think I would make it to. And so I decided to write a song kind of apologizing to little me. This song's kind of hard to play. Moonshine kicking up the rusty, dusty sunrise. Finally found hope in your eyes. I don't wanna be sad anymore. Kiss me, even though we know it's gonna hurt me. I just can't go on yearning for your touch anymore. Small crass girl, mind on the world. Invest in some self-respect unless you wanna cry all alone. Waiting for him to pick up the phone. Looking for home, looking for home. It's sometimes okay to be all alone. Looking for home, honey.
Honey bunny baby bee, love isn't free. It's full of fucking tests and they ain't gonna be cheap. You're gonna have to write your own novel for free called How to Be Loved and How to Love Free. The thoughts are gonna tear you down 'cause smiles at the cheek. Toothy shiny grins 'cause it's gonna be bleak. I can't help you baby doll, just understand please. And money, love and beauty, the most dishonest things. And I know your tears seem pointless now, but wait till you grow, it'll show. And I know it's hard when the sunshine ain't on your side. So let's go to the greenhouse sanctuary. Get out of the snow, oh, 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 'cause it's not letting up. Honey bunny baby bee, love isn't free. It's full of fucking tests and they ain't gonna be cheap. You're gonna have to write your own novel for free called How to Be Loved and How to Love Free. And I know your tears seem pointless now, but wait till you grow, it'll show. And I know it's hard when no one is on your side. So let's go to my house, get out of the snow. I'll take you home. I'll take you home. I'll take you home. I'll take you home.
Thanks, guys. And shout out to Vinefest, because without getting paid from little gigs like this, I would still have to be selling Boy Pussy on the Block.
Can we please get one more round of applause for Max Ilsad? Hey, thanks for sticking around with us, and thanks for growing in numbers, because this is where solidarity is, in you, in the numbers. There's safety in numbers, there's community in numbers, and there's power in numbers. Hey, look, I just want to take a second to be a bit selfish and say a bit of thanks to my mother and my dad, but like mostly my mother. She, we often don't think about the unpaid labor that goes on in households. I know people have spoken about that. But there's a woman in my life that wakes up at 6 a.m. or before. She'll pray, and she'll make the food. Then she'll go to work. Then she comes back. She heats up the food. Then she cleans the house. Then she cleans the clothes. A single second of appreciation, There's no paid labor there, but that is labor there. Her heart, her soul put into creating a family, supporting all us fucking Ingrids. And today I stand here because of her, and because of my dad, and because of my brother and sister. And honestly, I wouldn't be fucking here standing and talking if it wasn't for all of you. I swear to God, it's the solidarity and camaraderie from all the people that I've come across in my life that have allowed me to be here. I don't deserve to fucking stand here, but you know who does? You know who fucking does, who deserves to hear from, who we all deserve to hear from, is our next speaker, Simona. Simona, I have a intro here for you, and I want to say it. I do. Let me find it. Fuck, where is it? Simona Marsh. Yeah, Simona has lived here in the downtown east side for over 20 years. She's on the board of Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, the Coalition of Peers Dismantling the Drug War, and as well as various other boards dealing with the people in the neighborhood who use drugs. Hey, also, She helped start Defunct 604 Network, right? Hell yeah. Simona's a fucking badass. She is an absolute badass. She also works as an ethical substance use navigator and navigates the realities of the toxic and contaminated drug supply to keep her community safe. We have to keep in mind where we are. You know, Garth came here earlier and he spoke about that. He gave us a bit of history lesson. Hopefully we'll remember that moving forward. But for the present struggles, I present to you Simona Marsh.
Hi, I'm Simona. Yeah, I've lived down here for a long time. This park's been, I don't know what to talk about. When I first started with Vandu, there was nothing like an ethical substance use navigator. And we were going to conferences at BCCDC, and people would have to go down the main in Hastings to get their drugs. And this one lady did, and she ended up getting fentanyl and dying at the conference. So we're like, well, why are we doing it like this? If you're having people who use drugs come down here, why don't we have someone that can give them something that's going to keep them alive, at least through the conference, right? You know. So they were like, oh, no. And at first I wanted to call it debunkers, and they said, no, there's no money in the system for that. So me and a friend of mine, we sat down and we came up with Ethical Substance Use Navigator. And they're like, oh, yeah, wait a minute. There's money for that, right? So it's like, so then now I go all over the place and sell dope to people so that they stay alive during conferences, because it's really important. Because we're going to use it no matter what, right? Oh, I'm an avid user as well. So I know that what I get is always good. I mean, I triple test it. Don't buy it from people I don't know, because we're losing way too many people. And you know, if they put more money into the opioid overdose crisis than they did with the COVID, we probably wouldn't be having so many people die, whatever. Yeah. This is so cool. I'm glad of the turnout. Defund 604 rocks. Because who needs the cops anyways? Because they're the ones who put the most problem in to begin with, right? To serve the peace. Yeah, okay, whose peace are they serving? Oh, speak of the devil, look at them. Fuckers right there, Ron. Yeah, they just killed too many people, and they're assholes, man. Rob and steal from dealers, and then expect that there's not going to be violence, you know? I don't know.
Thank you, folks. Thank you so much, Simona. Can we please get a big round of applause for Simona here? She's a mentor to many. She truly is. We are coming near the end, right? Do we have to?
What?
Do we have to end it soon?
Unfortunately, just for today, yes. But
alright, fine.
yeah, our labor struggles go on every day. We
Yes.
know this. This is just one day to
Yes.
commemorate everything. But yeah, labor struggles and solidarity onwards forever.
Yes, but we're not quite done yet, right? We still have.
Yes, one more musical performance.
Yes, thank you. And who are they?
Their name is Magni Fuego,
Woo.
and they have a range of music experiences that started when he was 9 years of age. And since then, he's been involved in various musical projects and has been the director of his 2 bands. One of his band projects plays his original songs from his album called Planting Visions by Magni Fuego. Magni Fuego Planting Visions album is on Spotify and all other streaming apps. His passion lies in playing a Latin and rock fusion and is well versed in percussive, string, and some pre-Spaniard South American indigenous wind instruments. Here he is, Magni Fuego.
Take a few minutes. We are going to set up really quickly. We are going to play for you, for everybody.
Check. Thank you, everyone. Allo. afinado. Check. Aló.
Thank you.
So, we're just gonna be playing some South American folk music. Some of the bands or covers we're gonna play today is some bands that were from Chile they were formed like in '69, and they were stayed in exile when there was fascist dictatorship in Chile, and 73 to like 92 roughly. So yes, we're gonna play some other songs, songs of revolt, poetry, and songs that make you think, you know, philosophical songs. And yeah, this instrument right here is a pre-Spaniard flute. It's from South America, and it's yeah, this was from Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, and it's ancient flute, very spiritual, and it was used also in the kind of music that I was just kind of saying, the revolt from Chile, 70s and 80s, early 90s. clap your hands if you want, like this. Ba, 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 ba. That's right. Ba, ba. Yes. Nice, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone. That one was an original one. And the next song we're gonna play is a song from a Chilean musician artist. His name is Freddy Gongora, and he plays in a band called Combo Chavela. And it's the title is "Where Are We Gonna Live?" And it talks about the environment and where are we gonna drink our water, how are we gonna live in between the rays of the sun, and yeah, it's all related to that. I can go on and on, but yeah, thank you very much. Again, this is a cover from Freddy Gongora, the band called Combo Chavela from Chile. cielo del anochecer me envuelve en su negro chamal, un cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. Sorry guys, I'm gonna fix the microphone of the drum. Just can't really hear the drum that well. 2, 3, 4, Thank you. Thank you very much. Cielo del anochecer me envuelve su negro chamal, un cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. Cielo del anochecer me envuelve su negro chamal, un cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. ¿Dónde vamos a vivir? Entre los rayos del sol. Can we get a microphone for his vocals, please? Just for his vocals. Thanks, man. Cielo del anochecer me envuelve en su negro chamal, un cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. Cielo del anochecer me envuelve en su negro chamal, un cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. ¿Dónde vamos a vivir? ¿Dónde vamos a vivir? Entre los rayos del sol. ¿Dónde vamos a beber? ¿Dónde vamos a beber? Agua pura, ¿dónde voy? Agua pura, ¿dónde voy? El cielo del anochecer me envuelve en su negro chamal, el cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. Cielo del anochecer me envuelve en su negro chamal, un cuadro de lo espiritual, es el cosmos y sus estrellas. Thank you very much. I'm going to take off this jacket. It's getting in the way of my playing. Thank you. Now I can actually strum the guitar. And this one is called Huelgas de Amores by a band called Los Divididos, a punk folk band from Argentina. And it talks about when the Spaniards came to Peru and Brazil, and how they couldn't take the drums and our music, and they couldn't take our spirit, and yeah. Huelga de Amores by Los Divididos from Argentina. If you want to clap, feel free to clap if you want, but the rhythm is, I'll show you. ellos vivieron, los encubrieron, aquí encontraron, dioses que danzan, ellos vivieron, los encubrieron, aquí encontraron, dioses que danzan, y no dijeron, siempre es dinero, y en esta tierra sos extranjero, huelga de amores, huelga de amores, huelga de amores, el paso de las flores. Patriotas importados, nativos sin orejas, patriotas importados, nativos sin orejas, la muerte grita tierra, el canto chacarera, la muerte grita tierra, el canto chacarera, y no dijeron, cierra los ojos, dame la mano, toma la Biblia, y no dijeron, cierra los ojos, dame la mano, toma la Biblia, huelga de amores, huelga de amores, huelga de amores, el paso de las flores, la historia escrita por vendedores, no pudo hacer callar a los tambores. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Muchas gracias. Yeah, this one is Working Class Hero from John Lennon. Just gonna take a double check on the lyrics here because I thought I put the actual copy in my bag. I took the wrong sheets because I was out the house kind of quick there. Just a little touch up on the lyrics. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening and your time and energy. It's pretty cool. And thank you, Vine Arts, also for the invitation. And I liked all the speakers. Everyone was really cool. Everyone said some really interesting things, you know? Really valid, real. Makes you think as well. Here it is. Okay, I remember now. Yeah, Working Class Hero by John Lennon. You're born, they make you feel small. As soon as you're born, they make you feel small. By giving you no time instead of it all. Working class hero is something to be. Working class hero is something to be. As soon as you're born, they make you feel small. By giving you it all instead, can't remember the lyrics, but instead of the time, something like that. Working class hero is something to be. working class hero is something to be. They give you it all instead of time to live. Working class hero is something to be. Caminando en esta vida los vamos. One paper that I forgot to bring with my with the lyrics. Sorry, I kind of messed that one up. All right, so this one's from a band from Chile called Inti Illimani. Inti Illimani, father son in Spanish. Muchas gracias. Callejón de un solo caño. Extraña replicar, a un cajón lo vamos. El día que replicarle un canción, un solo caño lo vamos. Caminando por los vientos lo vamos. Caminando por la montaña lo vamos. Caminando hacia el sol lo vamos volando. Caminando hacia el sol lo vamos volando. volando, hacia el sol lo vamos volando. Thank you very much. Now we're gonna do one more instrumental, I think. I'm not sure how much time we got. Roughly. 2 minutes? Okay, cool. Sounds good. Do our little instrumental. Thank you everyone again for listening. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Gracias.
Arpegio, arpegio.